Welcome to LMP Talks Wrestling, and most importantly, welcome to the first episode of the Wrastlin Wrantz project. Why Wrastlin Wrantz, you might ask? Well, it's simple. We like to rant and rave about wrestling, and just to push that rebellious attitude a step further, we spell it with a Z. Because why the hell not? Unfortunately, James, who is my co-host, could not make it in today, but that is okay. He'll be back as soon as he can be. In the meantime, be sure to follow him on Twitter at LMP_jam. As for me, last week I had the pleasure of being a guest on Gimmick Minute Podcast. I was part of episode 62, I believe, on their iTunes podcast channel. You can also find them on Twitter under Live Your Gimmick. With all that taken care of, though, all the promotion out of the way, let's get back to the wrestling conversation as we begin to march on towards Clash of Champions on the WWE side, which takes place at the end of the month. A special NXT takeover in the first week of October. The G1 Climax in New Japan is starting this weekend, and AEW is having its anniversary show in the middle of October that features Moxley defending his AEW championship against Lance Archer. But as for today, we'll be focusing mostly on AEW discussion and a little bit of WWE stuff and a couple of news articles. And helping me with all of that is my next guest. And as long-term listeners know, when we have new guests on, we love to learn who they are and how they got into the wrestling fandom. And what about the fandom that makes them happy, and what about it drives them absolutely crazy? So without further ado, please help me welcome the creator of That's the Bottom Line podcast, Zach Walters. How's it going today?
Oh, it's going great. Thank you very much for having me on this podcast.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. So let's just, I guess, dive into the wrestling discussion. I mean, how did you become a wrestling fan?
Well, how long have we got? Oh, dear me. Well, it's going all the way back from when I was way high, basically. My first early memories is my granddad, who is no longer with us, unfortunately, of course. But he recorded the old WCWs back here on TNT, the channels that we used to have here in the UK. And for me, like, I remember watching Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, and thinking, wow. I mean, I'm probably about 5 years old, and just looking at these characters and thinking, wow, these guys, they're loud, the clothes that they're wearing, and the entrances and the way they paraded around the ring. It was something that I just thought, something here's clicked, and I couldn't stop. So yeah, I mean, for my early memories, I was a WCW guy for an early part, and then from there it went to obviously WWF, which is now WWE, because that was a lot more easier to watch as I grew a bit older, and that's pretty much it from mostly it, and then yeah, that's why we're all here.
And then the wrestling bug has hold of you.
It certainly has.
Yeah, I remember those days. That's when I started around, I think, 95, 96, something like that. I can't even remember now. It's been so long, but at least 25 years of watching wrestling. And when you watch a little bit of WCW and you're watching a little bit of WWF, and then as you get older, you dive into other promotions and you learn what they do, and you find all these crazy characters all across the planet.
Yeah. That's the fun bit about it, isn't it? You know, you see all these different people and you fall in love with them, and then, it's wrestling. I guess it's so difficult sometimes to say, how much, because wrestling's one of those, you either love it or you hate it. It's like Marmite. I don't know if you know Marmite. Maybe Marmite?
No, I don't think so, no.
No, Marmite, this is all saying, if you either love it or you hate it.
Yeah,
sort of.
With wrestling, it's certainly like that. It's like, oh well, no. It's usually you don't. Yeah, I'm not a fan, or I really do like it, just as you said. Yeah. But I mean, all of that wrestling knowledge, though, from 20 plus years of you watching the product, I mean, then you decide to make a podcast. So tell me about that. Tell the listeners about how your podcast came to be.
So firstly, it began when I was an admin for a Facebook group.
Okay.
And then I just came across an ad for another podcast, and they were looking for someone to come in, and I applied and I got the position, and then I was with them for about a year, and from then we disbanded natural causes, and then the time I spent with them, I sort of became a bit distant from wrestling. It wasn't what I wanted to do initially. I felt like my outlook on the wrestling world is very different. I wouldn't say different. I suppose it's just everyone has an opinion, and I'm all welcome to it. So, and then from there it was, I needed to get back into the love of it, because I was doing the news and doing stuff, and I was a bit like, I just wanted to get away from that. So yeah, took time away, and then I got to a point and thought, maybe I'll do one. Maybe I'll just test the waters and just create my own little podcast. So I did that for just for a little bit, and I guess this is where I am now. I created that's the Bottom Line podcast. One of my all-time favorite wrestlers, which is Stone Cold, of course, and heavily influenced the name, if you haven't already gathered. I don't think there's much else to say other than that's kind of how the progress came to be of this podcast.
It's a lot of fun when you're able to get your opinion out there and just talk with other wrestling fans.
Yeah, well, I guess, yeah. I mean, every wrestling fan on this planet has an opinion, because we all love and dislike things all the time, and that's fine. I say that a lot on my podcast, that we all have different opinions, and I always respect everyone's opinion when it comes to wrestling, because there's no right or wrong answer. So, but hearing back from fans, and I'm obviously being a fan myself, that's the beauty of it for me. What makes, I guess, wrestling such a unique place to be.
Yeah, it certainly is. There's definitely nothing like it on the planet. Now, as a older fan now, what do you look for in wrestling? Because with me, I've evolved, as we all do as fans. When I was younger, I would always cheer for the good guy. There'd be very few bad guys I would like, right? I was just that child mindset. I want to see my favorite wrestler. I didn't want to see my favorite wrestler get hurt. Just very simple mindset. But as I got older, I just really wanted a good story. I wanted something that, made me grab to the television. Didn't matter if it was a good guy, face, heel, doesn't matter who it is. I just wanted something long term and something that I could engage in. So with you now, from being, 20 plus years away from that growing up, what do you look for now, and what did you look for back then?
I am, well, back then, it was pretty much the same. It was all the goodies you'd always cheer. In fact, I don't think there was any heels that I would cheer. I remember hating Triple H, just completely despising him during the Attitude Era run.
I'm laughing because I felt the same way.
Because he deserved it. There's no other way about it. And that's what you need. You need these heels, and I do miss that. That's one thing I do miss, is genuine heel heat. And there's a few that do get that. And one thing, I suppose it's again, because it's like I understand the whole process of this now better, because when you get older, the business. I suppose the internet has been I guess the downfall in some ways of wrestling world. And that's something we all have to understand and get around somehow. But Baron Corbin of now, I would definitely say, is on that level of that heat. But I also respect him, and I also want him to get well and do well. So that takes a bit out of it, because you're like, back when I was 8 or 9, I was just like, I hope Triple H goes away. I don't want to see him on TV. And then now Baron Corbin, I'm like, he needs more time. He needs, he needs to be at that level. And I'm like, it's so weird. It's done a U-turn, a massive U-turn.
Well, it's a good shout for Baron Corbin, because a lot of people aren't aware that I'm pretty sure, and please sue me if I'm wrong about this. But I'm pretty sure that Baron Corbin's finisher, the End of Days, has never been kicked out of. Now, the man has been on a losing streak for a while and hasn't really, accumulated much of a resume to be talking the way he does. And he generally does come up with good heel heat, but he has the potential to be one badass heel in the company because of that finisher.
Of course, I love the finisher. It's a brilliant finisher, and the way he parades himself around the ring, he's great on the mic. He just needs that. I think what's again, I think the wrestling world has again done things with Baron is that I guess it's not his fault. At the end of the day, he's told to do what he needs to do, and
Yeah.
I guess when Baron and Reigns were having their big feud, and it went on for so long that we were just feeding Baron to Reigns, and it was just, it got sour, it got a bit stale, as to say. I hate kind of those words, but it's difficult to say. But I hope that Baron gets that next level. And I do hope he gets that WWE Championship that's coming to him in the future, because he'll be a fantastic champion and one that we should all boo, because that's a heel. You want to boo the heel. You don't want to cheer. So, yeah.
Yeah, he definitely has the potential to be somebody badass in the future, and I do hope they capitalize on that. I just don't want to see him in screwy finishers or where he comes out and bitches and moans. I want to see him capitalize. I want to see him come out and tell people, hey, nobody has kicked out of my finisher. If I put this finisher on you, I will take your belt, plain and simple. Try to tell me otherwise. Do you know what I mean? Like, here's my history of this move, right? So, I mean, who knows? I could be wrong. Maybe someone did kick out of it at some point, but I'm pretty sure nobody has. And WWE has been really protecting that finisher.
They have done. They have done really well with that finisher. And again, it's just it's probably one of the best finishers, definitely, in WWE. Definitely.
Yeah, like, love him or hate him, but when you look at Baron Corbin and he hits that End of Days, you're like, oh shit, it's over. It's over. Yeah. This match is over unless something, shenanigans happen or, some sort of something. Speaking of WWE too, and SmackDown with Baron Corbin being over there, one of the recently today WWE issued that there's going to be a Samoan street fight between Roman Reigns and Jey Uso and Sheamus and King Corbin. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. I mean, SmackDown's been kind of interesting the last few weeks with the whole heel turn with Roman Reigns and him being back in the picture. It's been kind of crazy. What did you think about Roman Reigns coming back?
Obviously, that's been the one that's been on everybody's mouth lately. And of course, Reigns comes with so much controversy with it, as enough as it is. But the Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns thing, it couldn't have been more perfect for me. That's something that's WWE have got this, or literally in the palm of their hands, to go, right, now we've learned this is what the way to deal with Reigns, the way Reigns should be presented to us, and this is how we get him over in a way that everybody is, I guess, happy. I don't know if that's the right word, because in a way, I guess Reigns comes with the background of him as a face, because he's obviously idolized by so many kids. That, obviously the thing with John Cena that never happened was his heel turn, or the big heel turn that we were all thinking that was going to happen at some point. Are they going to do that now with Reigns because of obviously all the kids, or are they protecting him from that by having Paul Heyman cut his promos, which is obviously something that we've seen a lot. And I know Reigns is still, he can still talk and he can still provide a good promo. So it's a bit like, is he actually going to go full heel, or is he going to be an in-betweener? That's where I'm kind of at the moment.
It's certainly intriguing the direction that they might go with Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. I just
Yeah,
hope they kind of get away from the whole King Corbin, because as we just finished talking about, we had Roman Reigns versus King Corbin, and I'm thinking, it got stale, right? And we don't
yeah,
want to use those types of words, but I think it might have been 5, 6 months, maybe 4, 5, 6 months of them feuding back and forth, and
yeah.
some of the
It was a
stuff
long
was just,
time.
yeah, it was a long time, and then they broke out the dog food and all this nonsense. And the second Roman Reigns gets back on television, within 2 weeks, he's now in a match with King Corbin again.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, really, really, you're just leaning up against that box as close as you can instead of thinking outside of it. You're just right along the side of it. But
I mean, the
as
only good
for
thing about it. Oops, sorry.
no, no, go ahead, man, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but the good thing about it is again, like, I guess that Jey Uso is getting a championship match. I guess it's sort of, it adds to the what they're going to do with Reigns, and this will be the full confirmation of that. So, but yeah, I get what they're coming from with Corbin, and the problem is where Corbin goes. Is he needs a title. I think he needs a title. So he won't. I don't know. It just seems to keep for me. He just seems to be that guy that they go to when they want another big star to go over. And despite, and I get that there's some great guys that have done that over the many years, and there's not everybody can be W champion. I get that. But he needs to get down to a level where he can control it and be that big guy in that area. So obviously on SmackDown right now is the IC title. So that would be somewhere that I would recommend Corbin go and dominate. That's
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah. Yeah, he would definitely dominate it in the mid card very, very well. And eventually, like as we say, he definitely could be a WWE champion or Universal champion at some
yeah,
point, as long as they book him right, and focus on his strengths, not his weaknesses. That's the best way to book any star, any wrestler. But with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, though, yeah, a lot of interesting stuff has come out of that. And honestly, at the Clash of the Champions or Night of Champions, whatever they're calling it this year, because it seems to change up every year.
every year it does, yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see how that pans out, because I'm really hoping that Roman Reigns, like after the match, him and Jey Uso have this match, and then Roman Reigns just goes absolutely insane and takes Jey Uso out, like really capitalizes on that heel character. Because right now, just as we were talking about, we don't know if Roman Reigns is how much of a heel is he? How far on the spectrum is he going to go? So I feel if he took out his cousin and just took out all that rage and just whooped his cousin's ass after the match, that would really cement that character.
100%, 110%. And if that's the way they're going with it, then they've got to go all deep with it. There's no turning back. No turning back.
Yeah, and that's why I feel it's good, because that moment would be like, oh crap. Well, there's no turning back for Roman Reigns now. He just took out Jey Uso. So, but I mean, switching gears to AEW, because that is what we were going to focus on today. And we have about a good 20, 25 minutes to talk about it. So are you all caught up on AEW Dynamite from last night?
I certainly am. I made sure today that was the only thing I watched, because I'll tell you what, I mean, keeping up with wrestling in a week is, oh, it's tiring sometimes. But I made sure that it was basically AEW today, because obviously NXT and AEW come together, as we know at the moment. So yeah, I haven't watched NXT yet, so I'm just made sure I got AEW out of the way. But yes, I am completely up to date.
What's your opinion, actually, on the whole AEW NXT and possibly going to Tuesdays for NXT?
It'll help me out, because it'll help me get more into a rhythm. Well, they might be doing that, for, just for me. I mean, I'm all flattered. Thank you very much. But no, that will change. It will change certain things up, but the war, I guess they might call it the war, but yeah, that will still always be there, won't it? So that's not going to change.
Yeah, I think it'll open things up for me too, because right now I'm only getting the highlights of NXT, and
Right.
back when there was a live crowd, I would I would tune into NXT right after I finished I would catch up on it then. But now I'm not even like I'll watch NXT here and there, and I did tune in to watch it the last couple of Tuesdays it was on because I don't really have anything to do on a Tuesday evening. So I watched Raw Monday. I tuned into NXT on Tuesday. Then I watched Dynamite on the Wednesday or the Thursday, whatever day it lined up, because of all the playoffs.
Yeah.
And now I'm back on regular nights where it's Wednesday versus Wednesday, NXT versus AEW. So, but I think it would do wonders for NXT because they pulled in some pretty decent ratings when they were on Tuesdays, and every time they compete against AEW, for the most part, and all the statistics are there, is that AEW seems to definitely have the upper hand on Wednesday nights. So, I mean, if they go to Tuesdays and just smash it there and stop worrying about what the other competition's doing, I think NXT could be back right where it was before.
I can't see why they couldn't. It's still a WWE owned product, so they've got the power in their hands to turn that around and make that a dominant promotion over AEW. But of course, we love to see the competition in ways. So I hope that AEW don't seem to pull them numbers in, like if they lose them to other days. But hopefully they won't. I hope they don't.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing incredible for themselves. But speaking of the Dynamite, though, what were your highlights last night, or I guess today when you caught up?
Oh, my highlights. Well, the Hangman Adam Page match was definitely a highlight for me.
It was good, wasn't it?
It was a fantastic. I think, in fact, Dynamite this week was possibly one of the best Dynamites we've had.
It just flew by.
It did, and I enjoyed it all. Yeah, that was definitely that match for me. Possibly was match of the night. I know, considering the card of having a parking lot brawl on the card, which was obviously chaotic. But yeah, for me, Hangman Adam Page has been possibly one of my favorites on AEW for a while. And in fact, that match just solidified him as definitely someone who everyone should have on the name. Everyone should know the name of Adam Page.
What's incredible about this week too is how fast it went by, and a lot of people are talking about how great the episode was. Not just you and I. There's been quite a few other people out there who are reporting that it's been a really good episode, and it just kind of flew by. But what's incredible about it is not a single championship was defended. I mean, yes, the NWA championship was defended, but that's a different company. But none of the AEW championships were defended. There was no women's title. There was no tag team titles. There was no TNT title. There was no world champion title. Like Cody had that rhythm of going and defending the TNT championship every single week. And of course, we're building that up with Brody Lee and the Dark Order and everything right now, which has been fantastic. But usually, in the last, I think, few months or so, there's always been kind of some sort of championship feature on the show, and last night it just goes to show that you don't need any championships being defended with how great that was. I mean, let's put the NWA title aside just for a second, and Thunder Rosa and Ivelisse pull off a pretty decent match. I quite enjoyed myself.
Yeah, that was a good match. In fact, one of the things I will I'm not fully up to date with the NWA division and stuff, things like that, and that's certainly something that I don't get the chance to sit down and just relax and watch certain things. And so obviously AEW have definitely brought me into more of the world of other things as well, and especially of wrestlers that I perhaps did not know much about. And I think that's done for everybody in certain ways. But yeah, bringing these two to a limelight as well, they put on a fantastic match. Again, great building up of that NWA division, and so looking, let people know that they've got some good, decent women wrestlers on their brand. So come over and check them out. That's what they're trying to tell you. And as much as that's working, and I feel like I'm gonna go now and watch more.
Yeah, well, NWA has been, I think, kind of down since the whole world pandemic kind of started. So, I mean, getting their people on AEW and getting promotion for their promotion is fantastic, because NWA has to, rake in some sort of, promotion at the end of the day, even though the world's kind of on pause still. But as the world slowly gets back together, NWA is going to have to get its name in there. And I think promoting it with Hikaru Shida and with Thunder Rosa and Ivelisse, and who knows what other NWA deals they might have up their sleeve too.
Yeah, definitely. I'm all for it. I'm all for this sort of AEW x NWA sort of relationship.
Yeah, I mean, briefly just going back to that Adam Page match with Frankie Kazarian, they had excellent chemistry.
Oh,
they really did.
Oh, it was
honestly, I really enjoyed that.
It really was. I mean, the match went on, like, I wasn't expecting it to go as long as they did. And then obviously having Kenny Omega on the commentary as well, which added to the emotion, because of course they sort of, what they do in there, who's going to go heel? That's the big question.
Well, the greatest thing about this feud is Adam Page is definitely the culprit that has caused all this because of his drinking. But there's so much layers. There's so many layers to this feud. It's ridiculous, because you have a lot of the audience is feeling really bad for Adam Page, and yet he's the kind of the heel. But because of his drinking and because of his bad decisions, it's now affecting other people. Like the Young Bucks are being upset. They're coming out and super kicking referees, tossing money in front of Tony Khan, which is beautiful, by the way. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show that, even in real life, if you're suffering through something, it does affect other people, and it can affect other people. And it's being mindful of what you do towards somebody else can actually have effects on them. Because they're pissed off, right? The Young Bucks are just pissed. They're not. A lot of people saying, "Oh, they're going heel. They're going heel." They might not be going heel at all. They're just really pissed off about what's going on right now within the elite.
Oh, certainly. I wouldn't think the Young Bucks were going heel. Yeah, I completely agree with you there. That they are annoyed, and they just don't understand. I guess they just want to end it, end this feud or what's going on between them. So at the end of the day, none of them might go heel. It might just be a blow off match. They might just say, right, you two sort it out in the ring. And that's what might happen. And I would be all for that one as well.
Yeah, because in this scenario too, FTR is still the heel, and they watched the Young Bucks last night, and they didn't do anything to them. So like, they're still the big heel tag team right now, and the Young Bucks still don't like FTR.
No.
So I think what I like in AEW, and again, it's throughout all my podcast episodes. To anybody who's new and listening to this, I will live and die with WWE. I will be on my deathbed, 70 years old, 80 years old, going, I still don't remember this stuff in WWE, but I'm still watching. It's either me or WWE that dies first. So I will always watch WWE. But what I like about AEW and other companies is they really take that character building and that story building, and they take it to the next level. Because there's like I already said, there are so many layers to this feud with the elite, Adam Page and Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, and how everything fell apart. There's so many layers to this. It's not as simple as, oh, this wrestler does this over here, and now he's automatic, or he or she is now labeled as a heel or a face.
Yeah.
It really isn't that simple with all this breaking up, because we're still wondering, oh, who's it going to be? Adam Page, Kenny Omega, the Bucks, and FTR, and it's really, really intriguing of what they've created out of all this.
You've said it best. I think you broke it down. Like I said, the layers and the story, the fact is they put so much effort into this. It's paying off, and we're all invested. Hence, we're talking about it on the podcast. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, then there's one other thing that we have to make sure that we put time in for, and that is the best man, formerly Rusev in WWE, who is now Miro in AEW. Tell me how you feel about Rusev, aka Miro, being in AEW.
Oh, it's different. Straight away, of course. It's going to take some time to get used to. But anybody, obviously, long arc of anybody who watches WWE, we all know him as Rusev. And I get the whole point of people getting on the bandwagon, calling AEW just the WWE ripoff, because they've got so many ex-WWE stars. But where else are they going to go? They're wrestlers. They're not going to just sit there and wait for WWE to call them back. So
Yeah.
they need to go out there and make a name, and that's what they're doing. And I'm all for all these, okay, they are WWE ex-wrestlers, but they're fantastic wrestlers, and they deserve to be on a promotion that's going to display their character, their in-ring performance, and everything else that makes what wrestling is. And if they know that they've got the talent, then they're going to use them. And AEW have brought in someone who's going to possibly bring them some great. Well, I mean, it's early to say, I guess, but I would think, because we know what Rusev did at WWE, he's going to bring some decent money in for the company. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I'm so confused with WWE sometimes. And I mean confused as in they had pretty much the whole world in his hands. And I mean not to quote Bray Wyatt and all the other songs that came from, but when Rusev was in WWE with Aiden English and Lana, and Rusev Day was circulating through everywhere, and the crowd couldn't be any louder if they tried. And WWE didn't like it. They did everything in their power to stop it, and it didn't stop, so they broke them up. And all they had to do was capitalize on that, and that would have been money. Because sometimes you just have to go with the crowd. And I mean, the second friggin' Miro was in AEW, some of the audience up in the rafters started cheering Miro Day. And Miro was like, I like the sound of that.
So, exactly. Just AEW needs to capitalize on that. That's it. And that's exactly what I think AEW are probably going to do. And that's what, when you think back, and I say this, and I know that I'm a very much an Attitude Era boy, I'm not going to lie. But the crowds then, they worked the crowd to a hell of a lot. And they'd know if you were over, and anybody that was struggling, they would, either help or, give them a little bit more time. But I guess, I know that time is long and gone. But this AEW, I'm not saying that needs to have that, but they do in certain ways, because they certainly have more attitude. But having attitude and getting over with the crowd is, you can't beat it. And certainly in that case for Miro, he's already there. It's literally on the palm of Tony Khan's hand to go, right, we're going to push Miro to the moon. And it's basically, saying to WWE, look what you could have done. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, isn't like Wrestling 101 is the whole point of wrestling is to get over.
Yeah.
To get over with the audience, to come up with a gimmick, come up with a wrestling style, come up with a character, and get yourself over. That is the whole point. So if you walk into a wrestling company and all of a sudden the audience is cheering your name constantly, 15, 16, thousands of people chanting your name every single time you come out, you're over. So now it's up to the company to capitalize on that, to make you go even further, not go, oh, well, we wanted you over, but we didn't want you over in this way, so now we're going to take that away from you. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't care who you are.
No, exactly.
Like I'm not a business guy, and I don't have any college education under business. None. Zero. No university, nothing. No education on business. But that seems pretty simple and cut and dry to me.
I don't know. It's a big question we'll never know unless we have Vince McMahon that comes onto Lotus Moon Productions and tells you otherwise. But other than that, that's what we'll all be guessing.
Now, we got about 10 minutes left of the podcast because time is flying like it always does. But one of the matches I definitely wanted to talk to you about was the main event of Dynamite, because that parking lot brawl, that was brutal. It was great. The bumps that both teams took, all people involved took. But Trent's back, though. Oh, my goodness. Tell me about how you feel about that match.
It's definitely... one of those that you go, unless if you're a massive wrestling fan and you're one that's come around all them big bumps that they were doing, this was something you'd love. If you're watching it as a new and someone who's getting into the whole new picture of what wrestling is, I can see people being put off. But for me, and I presume for yourself, we both probably enjoyed it as much as any other wrestling fan. But yeah, obviously the safety, and that's what we all go into these days, is the safety of every wrestler. But then when we were younger, we weren't saying things like that. We were saying people chuck them off the cell. We were there, yelling from from everywhere and just saying, throw him off. I mean, it's everything we see. But now we're a bit like, oh, actually, is it really worth doing that anymore? But,
yeah, it's because we're old and we feel the pain.
Exactly. Yeah. Said it best. But no, this was fun. This was fun, and this is again, wrestling in general needs that fun in what they present, and it's not all about the in-ring work, because we all know that, but they need to provide a entertainment, and I know it's an entertainment business. And again, this had everything. Didn't have a ring, it had everything else, but it presented wrestling, and I guess in only ways that sometimes wrestling fans only understand.
Yeah, and I mean, geez, the amount of pile drivers that they were dishing out through this and that, and on top of cars, and that I think it was that spot where I can't remember which one it was, but they were underneath the car hood, and they did a swanton on top of the car hood while he was underneath. Oh man, that would look brutal.
Oh, it was. It's stuff that you think that, wow, like these guys are going all out there on a just a weekly episode of Dynamite. And then I guess this was, if you want to get your ratings in, this is how you do it.
Yeah, I mean the match. I mean, just when you thought the match couldn't get any better, along comes Orange Cassidy coming out.
Come out the car, come out the boot, out the trunk.
Yeah, right out of the trunk, right out of the boot. That was freaking hilarious. I laughed at that. And it made sense, of course, because everybody has to protect Sue's mom. The honor of Sue's mom, man. And I think Sue's mom was probably the most over character ever, with her giving the finger there on her way out. That was beautiful.
Yeah, that was absolutely hilarious. That was brilliant.
Oh man, geez, what an awesome match that was. I was watching this and I was like, oh my god, they're absolutely destroying each other in this match. Like when they went through the wood, that wooden plank that was on the back of the truck that they pile drive. Oh my god, I thought he was dead.
If you're into that, then this is the match. But yeah, it's like I said, AEW are bringing lots of different worlds of everything into their program, and that's, I guess, the fun of what AEW is, and it's working.
It certainly is. And I mean, just to wrap everything up that's in this podcast too, at the very beginning of this podcast, I mentioned that Lance Archer would challenge Jon Moxley for the title at the anniversary show in the middle of October. And I want to finish our AEW Dynamite discussion with Lance Archer, Brian Cage, Ricky Starks versus Moxley, Will Hobbs, and Darby Allin next week in a 3-on-3 tag team match. What do you think?
Well, I mean, again, all 6 amazing individuals that, deserve to be in any limelight. And it's going to be crazy, having all them, beating the hell out of each other. That's the best way of probably describing the match, because there's so many big guys. I know you've got a little Darby Allin in there as well. But he certainly is not just a little guy. He can go in there and kick someone's ass at the end of the day.
Darby Allin's amazing.
Oh yeah, completely. And certainly for someone that will, in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the one that actually shines brightest from that match.
I'm very surprised that they've been pushing Will Hobbs, because from my point of view, and I pay attention to Dark every single week, for the most part, I'm pretty sure he's accumulated quite a few losses on Dark, but they seem to be pushing him, especially Jon Moxley there when he was like, Will Hobbs is going to be on my team, and it's like, oh, okay. Sure. Okay. What's why? And I guess they see some big things in Will Hobbs. So who knows what we'll be talking about in 6 months?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't get to watch I don't watch Dark as much as I should. But I know when they feature it, I know he's only featured a couple of times on the actual main Dynamite. But every time they featured him, he's sort of done something that's, been quite, I say memorable, but some things like, you go, oh, this guy can, this is something that obviously the AEW are going to, to basically keep it on your mind, keep him on your mind while, there's other things going on. But this is a guy that we're going to hopefully push in your direction very soon. And this is it. This is possibly their big ending. This is the big, the sort of Will Hobbs to the world of AEW.
Yeah, I mean, and now moving towards the anniversary show in October, do you think Lance Archer will take the title from Jon Moxley?
Oh, that's the question. Obviously, the worst. I don't know. It's difficult to say because with John, I feel like right now he's still hot. He's still hot as ever, and I don't think him losing that belt would affect him. It would, in fact, obviously help Lance Archer out. But I just don't think it will be Archer to take that title away from Moxley.
Yeah, I think you're right about him having all that all that steam. Like he's certainly hot right now. He's still in that hot streak, and I think what's going to happen here, because they keep dropping Eddie Kingston. They keep mentioning how he didn't technically win, and Lance Archer even mentioned him too. So I have a gut feeling that Eddie Kingston's going to cost Lance Archer this match, and then they're going to have a feud, and it might even just be heel versus heel, because as we spoke about before, just how layered AEW seems to be with their character building. I'm okay with two heels going at it. A face doesn't have to come out of that, right? Lance Archer's a monster. If he wants to go around wrecking people, I don't care who you are, heel or face, you got in my way, I'm going to put you through the ceiling.
Yeah, exactly.
So that makes sense. It writes itself. So, and to keep that title safe, and it's on a TV episode. Yes, it's the anniversary show, and they're probably going to be promoting it like a big deal. I mean, they already are with Jon Moxley versus Lance Archer, and it'll be another match catering back to their New Japan fights. Did you see them fight each other in New Japan?
Yeah, I did do. Yeah, I did catch that match.
Yeah, it was pretty damn good, and the fact that they'll be able to tear the house down once again on television is fantastic. So, but I think that's the way out. I think that's the way out to get Jon Moxley to Full Gear. And I honestly think Kenny Omega is going to be the one that takes the title off of Moxley. But I could be wrong. Again, I've been saying this multiple times throughout my episodes, but I do think Omega is the one that will take it off of Moxley at Full Gear.
I mean, it's a massive call. I definitely would have said Omega going back a couple of months ago. But as of now, for me, if I'm going to pick someone, I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't happen in certain ways, but if they're building it up, I mean, I can't see Lance Archer taking it from him now, but I could possibly see him taking it from another longer feud between all three of them, like you mentioned Eddie Kingston, Lance Archer, and Moxley, and I would think it might end up being a three-way match for the AEW Championship.
It very well could be that too. Eddie Kingston gets into the title picture, and it could be the three of them at Full Gear.
Yeah, and if that happens at Full Gear, then probably Mox might walk away with the title. But maybe if Eddie Kingston doesn't mind taking the loss, then Archer could be protected. Then you could have Archer versus Mox at maybe next year. Maybe towards January, February. It'd be Revolution, will it? Is it Revolution then?
Revolution will be the end of February, I believe.
Right. Okay. So that possibly be the next one, maybe then.
Yeah, they seem to space their pay-per-views out every 3 or 4 months.
They do, yeah. They certainly do. So that might be the next one after Full Gear, unless they do have another one, maybe towards the end of the year.
Well, those are some fantastic ideas to look forward to, and with that, we will draw a line under it. Can you shout your social media out there, Zach?
So for me, obviously, I'm on Facebook. It's on That's the Bottom Line podcast. You can find me there. You can also listen to the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, and the home of That's the Bottom Line podcast, Podbean.
Sounds great, man. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh, well, thank you very much for having me. It's been a massive pleasure. And, again, this has been fantastic. It's been great.
Yeah, and next time we'll get you on with James. He'll be here too. So the two of us will talk to you too.
Oh, that'd be brilliant. Yeah, more people, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. So with all of that, you can find also us under SoundCloud under Lotus Moon Productions. You can find us on Facebook under Lotus Moon Productions. Follow us on Twitter under Lotus Moon Prod, and you can search us on YouTube under Lotus Moon Productions. Please help me get to 100 subscribers on YouTube so that I can have a custom URL and not have to have that awful URL that YouTube loves to give me. So with all that, this has been LMP Wrestling. We were signing off.